My name's David Edgar Love. I'm from Montreal, Canada.
And I am Colin Henderson from Lawton, Oklahoma.
Um, David and Colin, you both spent some time in Narconon Arrowhead facilities for drug treatment, for addiction treatment. David, I know that you spent a year total at Narconon Three Rivers in Quebec, and 5 months of that as a patient and 6 months as a staff member. And Colin, you spent 2 weeks at Narconon Arrowhead here in Oklahoma for a prescription painkiller addiction. At what point did each of you start to realize this wasn't just a drug treatment facility, this was a front for Scientology? David, you go first.
Well, I think I didn't really know for sure that it was a front money machine for Scientology until I was near the end of the program and recruited onto staff. And then I started noticing it.
And Colin, what about you?
I noticed it whenever I requested to sit down with a word clearer at Narconon Arrowhead to find out some explanations of what was going on with some of the things that was happening to me. And whenever he showed me a book and asked me to read the word Thetan and the definition of the Thetan, and I turned the book over and it was the Scientology dictionary, that was the moment that I realized that this was pure 100% Scientology.
What things were happening to you?
Oh, with the TRs, the eyes open, eyes closed, you had basically, I had a long session, and one person, I had a female that started a session with me. It was called a TRs, the zero, eyes open. I was doing roughly a 50-minute session, and whenever I was tapped on the shoulder by the course instructor, that I realized that the person that was sitting in front of me was not the person that was there at the beginning of the program, of that session. So I started asking. I had headaches at that point, and I basically went out into the common area, lay down, and came back in and told the course instructor that I want to know what happened, what's going on with me, what did I just experience.
And David, what led to your discovery, and then what did you decide to do once you realized what was happening?
Going through as a patient, I did know that all the executives were Scientologists, and several of the staff were Scientologists, and I thought that's fine for them to practice that. And I started reading some of their information. But when I was recruited onto staff, it only took me about 10, 11 days to finish the course room supervisor's course downstairs, and that mainly consisted of listening to 12 tapes of L. Ron Hubbard about how he used to be a photographer, and I thought, what the heck does this to do with treating drug addicts? And basically that's all it was to it, and I was out as a course room supervisor pushing his patients through the program, when really I should have been in an aftercare program helping me cope with after getting out of a treatment program. But none of it was treatment anyway. There's no counselors there. There's no anybody that says they're a certified counselor or withdrawal specialist, course room supervisor, ethics officer. The only certificate they have is after they finish the Scientology course in the basement of Narconon. There's a color certificate printed off upstairs in the color printer. That's it.
Wow. So at what point did you decide you were going to leave, and then what did you do once you did leave?
Okay, I not only was I course room supervisor, I was also the registrar that's bringing people in. I was also the graduate officer, and as a graduate officer, I interviewed the patients before they left to try and make sure they went into a safe environment. But it was also my job to interpret the success rate. So I contacted 720 patients over a 2-week period to see if they were doing well and to see the ones that were relapsed. And my history as a realtor and sub-mortgage broker for 6.5 years, it didn't take me long to calculate that the success rate was only about 40%, and when I included all the staff that were working there and had gone through the program and relapsed drastically, using every day and still working there, the success rate was about 20%. Instead of the 70 to 76% that I was telling people as a registrar and conning them to come into Narconon. And I just said to the executives, I'm not going to participate in this. And they said, well, just take the ones that you couldn't contact and put them in the doing well side. I said, you can't do that. I said, this is fraud. It's a misrepresentation. and we're bringing people in from United States, and they're transferring money over state lines. This is a serious matter. I said, I'm not going to participate in this conspiracy. So there was arguments and whatnot, and I ended up over at Narconon Canada was another building. And they told me, well, take the documents with you, David, because you're building a charitable foundation. You can use those to raise money. So I had a federal employee pick me up after dark one evening and hide me away in a motel for 2 days because my life was threatened, and they were threatening me with text messages and whatnot. Posted on my Facebook as an enemy, so I was declared a suppressive person. And then I had a meeting with the SQ Intelligence Police for 2 hours. But there were so many threats, I was getting so stressed. I ended up in the hospital for 2 days, diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And then those doctors sent me to a crisis center for 2 days for professional therapy to help deprogram what I'd gone through in the cult and be able to cope and function in society again. So it worked really well. And they helped me also with, well, they owe you money for wages, you need to file complaints and you can get your money. And then they helped me, the next step, file with the Human Rights Commission, the Competition Bureau, police reports, and so it just snowballed after that.
And you essentially got that facility shut down.
I helped with the evidence documents, yes, about 3,700 pages of evidence documents actually. And the Ministry of Health and Social Services set out criteria in legislation, and Narconon was found to fail in 40 out of the 56 criteria, and they shut them down immediately and transferred the patients out because too many were ending up in the hospital, taken away in ambulances, and they didn't want to see any die in the facility like they were dying in Narconon Arrowhead.
And so at what point did you start looking at Narconon Arrowhead and turning your attention there, and then how did you and Colin connect?
Well, I started writing for the Examiner, excuse me, an online publishing company, actually the Montreal Public Safety Examiner. When I started seeing the deaths at Narconon Arrowhead, I published an article that said, a year ago, I said it's not a matter of if another patient dies in another Narconon, it's a matter of when. And since that article, 2 more people have died at Narconon Arrowhead. And then I hooked up with Colin Henderson, and we were on the exact same wavelength of wanting to see people treated properly and humanely, and especially stop the death within the Narconons.
And so what have you guys been working on here together?
Public awareness.
Okay.
Public awareness, media awareness, government awareness, senator awareness, the governor awareness, and mental health awareness. And we've had meetings with them, except for the governor. We were at the senator's office and the Department of Mental Health day before yesterday.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, Colin and I went there, and I delivered a lot of documents. I'll be sending a lot more. They want more documents. And I'll be visiting the office of the FBI tomorrow to deliver a package of documents because I filed a complaint with them a few months ago, and they replied to me. And so we have a file number, and we'll be delivering the documents. And this is for the false success rate of 70 to 90% that they advertise. It's misrepresentation, it's fraud, and this money's coming over state lines. So that's the FBI's territory.
And so what's the ultimate end goal here? What are you guys trying to make happen?
If Narconon has to shut down, then we want them shut down. If we have to wait until February for the legislation to come through that's being worked on, there's a chance that somebody else could die there between now and there. So that's a long amount of time. We've had 3 deaths in the last 10 months at Narconon Arrowhead, and it's a very dangerous situation over there. And they are in panic mode over there right now, which makes it that takes it up 10 notches on them making mistakes. They have been known to make it, actually not known, it's factual. They make mistakes when they're not panicking. And now they're panicking, trying to hide things and dump students here and there at the Tulsa International Airport, at the homeless shelters in Tulsa, at the women's crisis centers, and dumping them at hotels with nothing in their pockets. They're not helping them get back to their house, to the state that they're from. And we have had to help. Concerned citizens have had to help get these people out and get them to another proper treatment facility, a safe one.
How much of what is happening do you think is because it is a Church of Scientology program. I mean, would this be happening if it were related to some other group or organization?
Absolutely, because this is a safety issue. Addicts and drug addicts, the United States has just stated, finally, that it's a disease. Okay, so they deserve the same humane, qualified, professional treatment as anybody that has cancer, arthritis, whatever. And the government's starting to recognize this. Under the Constitution, everybody's equal, and they deserve the same treatment and care. I mean, let's face it, every family or friends that they know has drug and alcohol problems. And the way Scientology do it is insidious. But if it was any other group, if you care about human life, which I do, I'm a human rights advocate, you would do this. And Colin cares too. You know, it's very, very important. People are dying. And the way Scientology does it, I mean, they're brutal. I mean, they've launched an attack on me, sending packages to media, even saying, I had a media person yesterday said, well, David, they say your name, David Edgar Love, is an alias. That's not even your name. And I said, well, here's my passport. They also said I have a criminal record, which I do not have a criminal record. I had to go through, send information to NBC in Tampa Bay and say, here it is. I know where you got this information. I know why you got this information. The person you got it from is coerced. I mean, it's brutal. But Scientology is well known for when they're being attacked, to attack. It's called the Black Panther mechanism. There's about 5 stages of how to do it, and I know it very well too.
So, what's next? I mean, you're still working on Narconon Arrowhead. If that facility does get shut down, you know, where do you turn your attention to others? You know, what's next for you guys, and what's next, do you think, I mean, can you speculate what's next for Narconon and Scientology?
Well, I can speculate. We're meeting with some very prominent lawyers, not just one, tomorrow morning, for a lengthy meeting. I feel there's going to be criminal charges filed. There's been 2-3 lawsuits filed. There's some more lawsuits just around the corner, trust me. It might even be a class action. But these lawyers that are going to be taking on Scientology very shortly, Scientology and Narconon's in for a rude awakening. I mean, they are not going to back off.
And not just in Oklahoma, nationwide.
We'll see.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. A pleasure being down in Oklahoma. Thank you, Oklahomans, for such a warm welcome to a Canadian. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you so much for having me on your show. It is an honor.